Our text for our message today is found in the Old Testament book of Hosea, Hosea chapter 10, and we'll read verses 12 through 15. Hosea chapter 10, beginning with verse 12. Sow for yourselves righteousness, reap in mercy, break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord, till he comes and rains righteousness on you. And in these next verses, we have why it's time to seek the Lord. You have plowed wickedness, you have reaped iniquity, you have eaten the fruit of lies, because you trusted in your own way and in the multitude of your mighty men. Therefore the tumult shall arise among your people, and all your fortresses shall be plundered, as Shalman plundered Beth Arbel in the day of battle, a mother dashed in pieces upon her children. Thus it shall be done to you, O Bethel, because of your great wickedness. At dawn the king of Israel shall be cut off utterly. And may God bless the reading of his word today. As you know from your history lessons, back in July the 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was signed in Philadelphia. This document declared that the 13 colonies were now free and independent from Great Britain. Pardon me. For now, these 13 colonies no longer considered themselves to be 13 colonies. Now they consider themselves to be the United States of America. Now, the only known original draft of that historic document is under glass and guard at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. And I'm sure several of you have seen it, haven't you? Several of you on your tours and travel. You didn't touch it, but you saw it. Well, they've got it under glass and under guard. Well, all through the years, historians have believed that there was a second draft of the original draft. They didn't know where it was at, but they believed it existed. Well, guess what happened in April of this year? There were two researchers from Harvard University in a small town courthouse going through some documents and old papers, and they found the second draft of the original draft. Now, they had to have it examined, of course, and the experts did examine it and investigate it, ran all their tests, and it has been found to be authentic. Now, here's the ironic part of that story. Guess where they found the Declaration of Independence from England at? Any of you remember the story? They found it in England. That's right. That small town and that courthouse was located in England. Think of the irony of that. A Declaration of Independence from England, found in England. How it got there from Philadelphia, nobody knows. But that's one of those ironies of life. Now, I think we all would agree that our Declaration of Independence from Great Britain has been good. For if we were still under British control, think about this. We would have tea breaks instead of coffee breaks. Our steering wheels would be on the right side of our vehicles. Our game of football would be soccer. We all would talk funny, as if we already don't. And our flag would be the Union Jack instead of the beloved Stars and Stripes. So that Declaration of Independence was good. But having said that, folks, there is a Declaration of Independence that is bad for a country. A Declaration of Independence that is a fatal mistake for a nation to make. And that is when a country declares its independence from God Almighty. We have an example of this happening in our text for today. During the life and times of Hosea, the people of God declared their independence from God. Let's see how that worked out for them. First of all, let's look at their reliance. Their new reliance is given to us in the last part of verse 13. Here's what Hosea says about his people. You have trusted in your own ways and in the multitude of your mighty men. Instead of trusting, depending, and relying on God, they relied on their own smarts, their own way, and they relied on their own strength, their own mighty men. These people came to believe that they were so smart and so strong, they no longer needed God. So smart and so strong that they no longer needed to look to God for His smarts and His strength. So out of their self-reliance, they declared their independence from God. From now on, they would go it on their own, depending and relying on their brains and brawn, on their mind and muscle, on their smarts and their strength. So now let's look at the results of their declaration of independence from God. The first result was depravity. Hosea gives us 3 examples of this depravity in verse 13. He says, they plowed wickedness, they reaped iniquity, and they ate lies. Wickedness, iniquity, and lies. Add that up, and you get depravity. And that's exactly what that country got when they declared their independence from God. The second result was division. Verse 14 speaks of the tumult arising among the people. That word there means a division, a disagreement, a dissension. Fussing, fighting, feuding, squawking, and squabbling. That's what the nation got when they declared their independence from God. And then the third result was defeat. Verse 14 speaks of their forts being plundered and their women and children being dashed to pieces, while verse 15 speaks of their king being cut off. And all of this did happen just a few years after Hosea wrote these words, when the Assyrians marched in with their unique brand of hail. And all of this happened to this country, all of this depravity, all of this division and this defeat, because they declared their independence from God Almighty. Now let's bring this home to America. Has America, for the most part, declared its independence from God? I'll answer that question with a series of questions. Is America depending these days more on its own smarts and strength than on His smarts and strength? Is there more depravity in our land? Are we plowing and planting more wickedness than before? Are we reaping more iniquity than before? Are we eating more lies than before? And what about division in our land? Is our country more divided than ever before? I hate to say it, and I say it with no joy, I say it with sadness and sorrow, but in my humble opinion, I believe the answer to all the questions I just asked is yes. I wish it wasn't, but I believe it is. I believe our country on the whole has declared its independence from God by depending on ourselves, by relying on our smarts and strengths instead of depending on Him and His smarts and strength. And that's why the #1 leading crop in America today, it's not corn, beans, or cotton. It's wickedness and iniquity. And that's why the favorite food in America today is not apple pie and French fries. It's the fruit of lies. And that's why our leaders and people are so divided today, they can't even agree on what day of the week it is. And when you have these two results, you know what's coming? That third result, the defeat. It will eventually and ultimately happen. But did you notice verse 12? I hope you did. Because verse 12, Hosea gives us two results of seeking the Lord. Two results when a country will depend on Him, declare their dependence on God. Those two results are righteousness and mercy. So here's our choice for our country. We can declare our independence from God, and we'll get depravity, we'll get division, and we'll get defeat. Or we can declare our dependence on God and get righteousness and mercy. Now that's some choice, isn't it? I'm not too bright, but I think I can determine which of those two choices is the best. So here's my prayer for America, the country that I love. I'm hoping and praying that we will tear up and throw away our declaration of independence from God, and that we'll come up and live up to a declaration of dependence upon God before it's everlasting too late. That's my prayer for America.